Hello everyone, welcome to this second webinar of the day in the market entitled Delivering Innovation, Telco, Commodities and Trading, an Industry Showcase. My name is Michael Imson and I'm the Director of an editorial services agency called Financial and Business Publications, and as well as moderating events for Ditto, the organiser of this week's wonderful series of Disrupt and Advanced webinars, I'm a Senior Content Editor at FT Live, the Financial Times Conference Division. And I'm also a chartered member of the UK's Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment, the CISI, which is the one of the leading institutes in the city. And I'm chairman of the CISI's FinTech Professional Forum. And joining me for this discussion are three experts on the use of innovative technology in commodities trading, in particular metals, oil and gas, and also in the energy sector, renewables, as well as traditional energy. First, we have Barry Gould, who's Chief Technology Officer of Concord Resources, or Resources, if you pronounce it the English way. Concord is a global physical metals trading firm which set up business just under 5 years ago in London, where Barry's based, and it has offices also in New York and Hong Kong. Its annual revenue is around $4 billion. Then we have Nadia Hackinson, who's Managing Director for the Africa region at Siemens Energy. The German multinational company Siemens is forming a new separate entity called Siemens Energy, which brings together everything related to power, from distributed generation, transmission, and oil and gas. Nadia is normally based in Casablanca, Morocco, but for the past few months has been operating from her home country of Sweden. She's previously lived in Thailand, where she led the Siemens Energy Service organization there. And finally, we have Mustafa Nasser, who's CTO of Invenica. And I believe, Mustafa, you're also based in London, but you can correct me later if that's not correct. Mustafa is a digital strategist and inventor. He's helped multiple organizations in the UK, Germany, France, and Belgium transform their business with innovation, emerging technologies, and thought leadership. Now, we're going to be talking about the latest technology used in commodities trading, especially the buying and selling of metals, oil and gas. And when I say trading in these things, I mean the physical commodities, not futures or other derivative contracts. And we're also talking about energy and power generation, including renewables. And the format of this webinar is simple. First, I'll ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell us about their job. Then I'll ask them a few key questions. Listeners will be able to ask questions via the webinar site, so please do send some in. I'll try to get answers to some of them towards the end. Then there's a section on the site which explains how to send in questions. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some concluding remarks. So let's get started. Barry from Concord, tell us about yourself and your job.
Right, many thanks, Mike, for the introduction. Hi, I'm Barry Gould, and as Mike has said, I'm currently the CTO for Concord Resources Limited, where I look after all aspects of technology, from infrastructure, strategy, development to innovation. As Mike has said, we're a relatively new company, just under 5 years old, in fact 4.5 years old to be precise, and we trade physical metals, and we have offices in London, New York, and Hong Kong. We are a 100% cloud-based company. We have no server rooms, no on-premise servers, even our phones are cloud-based devices. Personally, I've been involved in technology all of my career, from designing and actually coding, trading, and analytical systems to globally managing very large teams of people. I've held various senior roles in technology, including 30 years working in investment banking, physical commodities, and other areas of the financial services industry. I've held senior roles at Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, Citibank, and Noble Group, and also have had a number of interim CTO roles across different industries. I've always worked closely with the business in all the roles I've had, and I suppose I'm seen as a bridge between business and technology because I have a good understanding of both areas. As you can imagine, I've designed, built, and implemented many large, complex technology solutions, and have many war stories which we don't really have enough time to talk about that I could, be very willing to tell you all about. However, some people find some of the following more interesting parts of my career. So, for instance, I do mentor a number of startup companies, both as an advisor and also invest in a number of startups, as well as mentor for Techstars, which is an accelerator fund. My first job was actually writing torpedo systems, if you find that interesting. I've also worked for the UK government at a Home Office within technology. So there's a brief summary of myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Nadia, what's your role at Siemens Energy?
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me on this panel. So I am responsible for Region Africa for the energy service business, and as you mentioned, Siemens Energy is being created actually this year. It's quite an exciting year for us as a company because we're going to be an independent, pure power player, which is very exciting because we bring everything related to power generation, electrification, transmission, distribution, oil and gas, and also the Siemens Gamesa wind business under sort of one company, which is very exciting. So my role is basically to make sure that we serve our customers that have our rotating equipment. But what is also exciting and why this panel is exciting is that innovation is really close to our hearts because we are in a quite an interesting phase with the energy transition that we are in at the moment, and we really want to be front runners in leading the transition to a decarbonized world. So there's a lot of things happening in the innovative space in Siemens Energy, which is very exciting, and we'll talk about that more during this session. But I've basically been in Siemens since 15 years. I've had multiple roles, both in operations as well as business development and sales. And recently, like you mentioned, I had an experience during 3 years. I was responsible for our business in Thailand, and now very exciting to be in Africa and support to develop the energy solutions in Africa.
Thank you, Nadia. That's very clear. I think you're still in Sweden, though, aren't you, because of the pandemic? When do you, any news when you'll be going back to Africa?
Actually, it's still quite uncertain. The borders in Morocco, where I am based, are still closed. So I'm hoping that August, September, I will be able to return. But it's a big question mark. I've been here now for 3 months, which was a lot longer than I anticipated. But you know, it is what it is. Everyone is doing home office at the moment, so we have to make the best of the situation, I guess.
Yes, yeah, and it's a good learning curve for everybody. So you know, we're all expert at communicating like this with conference calls and so on. So I'm sure it will benefit all of us in the long run. Mustafa, what's your role at Invenica?
Thank you, Michael. I am Mustafa Nasser. I am currently the Chief Technology Officer at Invenica. Invenica is a consultancy based here in London that specializes in emerging technology and the creation of new concepts and ideas for our clients, mainly within the telco industry, within financial services, and the trade industry to help them transform, differentiate, and innovate. We work with a lot of clients here in the UK, some clients in Europe, and some in Africa as well. I myself have over 14 years of experience in both large consultancies and small startups in markets like Spain, France, and here in the UK, where I'm hoping here at Invenica to use that experience to help my current customers. I'm also heavily involved in the discovery, the creation, and development of new products and solutions, in some cases, platforms and ecosystems that we are aiming to launch into the market, alongside building some SaaS and PaaS product models internally that we are also trying to roll out to the market.
Good, thank you. Thanks for those introductions, everybody. Well, we're here to talk about delivering innovation, digital transformation, whatever you want to call it. And all three of you are working on some exciting technology projects. So that's the first topic area, which is the key topic area we're going to talk about. And Barry, you're working on several technology projects that involve quite a lot of innovation. And you were telling me the other day that one of these involves the use of blockchain. So can you tell us about it? How are you proposing to use blockchain to improve the efficiency of your commodities trading business?
Yeah, that's correct, Mike. We are looking at a number of innovative ideas, one of which, as you quite rightly mentioned, is blockchain. I think there's a couple of themes that we should probably outline as a company and the way our industry works. Firstly, one, I mean, Concord, as I mentioned, is a relatively new company. Where luckily we don't have much of any legacy, and we're not tied to a particular process or way of doing anything. Also, by our very nature, we are a very innovative young company. And two, the metals industry is a very, very old-fashioned industry where most of the business is still done on the phone, via email, and there are very, very few, if any, standards in place. So we believe there are opportunities to streamline what we're doing as a business, and technology, we feel, can play a very large part in that. So we decided some months ago to talk to people we do business with, like-minded companies like ourselves, individuals who we know, and to start and investigate doing and using blockchain as a technology. So we got together one of our big banks, ABN AMRO, a warehouse where we store metal called PGS, Aon, one of our insurers, and a technology company we use to help us develop some trading systems, and to take what is today a very manual process, which is repoing of a metal trade, and see if we can automate it. So we took blockchain as a technology because it's reasonably well known. People are worried about security and transparency, and that certainly solves that problem. And we completed a platform which allowed us to do a real repo trade, which traditionally would take us 2 to 3 days. And we did that in about 5 minutes with full transparency, full traceability and security. If ABN AMRO did their part of the transaction on a mobile phone. So, you know, we're very excited about that. And we're at the stage we'd like to get more companies involved and see if we can broaden the reach and get more people to join the platform and the ideas that we've put together so far.
But that's just a test or a pilot. It's one thing to get a trade done under these test conditions in 5 minutes. But when do you think you'll have it sorted completely and actually go live?
Well, interesting enough, even though it was sort of a pilot, we did it on some real metal in a warehouse. So I'm not quite sure what you call that. So we actually did do a real repo trade. We did repo it back. So it was actually a real trade on some real metal, actually in Netherlands. So that was, as I say, that was very successful. But you know, it's clearly it's one thing to do that, but to scale it up to get other people involved is a kind of another ball game. But you know, unfortunately, with the pandemic around, things have slowed up a bit. But we have got other people interested. So you know, we hope to do a lot more in and around blockchain and this idea that we've got, you know, throughout the rest of this year.
Yeah, okay. There's a couple of other projects I want to talk to you about later, but I'd like to move on to Nadia first before we go back to some of your other things. So, Nadia, how are you digitalizing your business at Siemens Energy, not just for your benefit, your company's benefit, but for your customers as well? And what sort of obstacles do you find on that journey, and how do you overcome them?
Thank you, Michael, for the question. I mean, we see so many opportunities for our customers in actually in all fields of energy, whether with digitalization, how we can enable both remote connectivity, which means that we can connect to the assets remotely using our engineers and experts to connect to the assets and try to help our users to find the root cause of an issue, a technical issue, which means that they are not possibly operating, or and we can identify it quickly remotely. But also from an analytics perspective, I think if we can jump down a couple of slides to the digital slide, it shows a good overview a little bit further down. Here we go. So also from an analytics perspective, I mean, using data sensors that we've put in the equipment to collect data and run big data analytics to really optimize the use of assets really can lead to, you know, fuel efficiency, optimized use of your equipment, and also that you get this early preventive recommendations from the digital tools, suggesting what you can do to optimize the operations, optimize when you should do your service activities, and so on. So it really enables smarter energy solutions and fuel efficiency, cleaner energy through the digitalization. And you know, connected assets of course mean that we can automate a lot of traditional manual processes, such as, you know, running a power plant. So from a future oriented perspective, you could consider a future where power plants are running maybe just with a couple of people, while, you know, today it's a lot of operators that need to make sure that the power plant is running. So it opens up for a lot of exciting future visions. But of course, you know, you asked about the challenges, and you know, a lot of customers might not feel entirely comfortable from a cybersecurity aspect. I mean, they might be afraid to share data of their assets with us. You know, despite all these benefits that it opens up to, we all know that we need to take cybersecurity risk as an important element, but that is a challenge to overcome, and we have cybersecurity solutions incorporated in all our tools. So I think, you know, a way of overcoming that is demonstrating clearly, you know, that we have solutions to protect from cyber attacks, and cyber attacks indeed is something that we need to take seriously, because it could really disrupt operations, disrupt power supply, and so on. So it's important that we have that key element in the solution. And of course, also, you know, in general, there's a higher need for flexibility in the energy system today. So you need to be able to have a system that can manage quick change in demands, whether up or down, and there, you know, the digital tools can help make those decisions much quicker. And, you know, with a new energy landscape of a mix of renewables, which depend on sun and wind, versus the more traditional, you need to be able to forecast as well. And this is also something that the digital solutions can support with. So in summary, digitalization is really an important enabler to the future energy landscape and helping our customers to better optimize their equipment.
Thank you, Nadia. You mentioned the risk of cyber disrupting your operations, because a lot of people think of cybersecurity in terms of information technology, but there's also OT, operational technology, and we had examples in Ukraine a few years ago. How advanced is cybersecurity for operational technology compared with information technology? Are they on a par, or is one ahead of the other?
I think the awareness of OT versus information IT, it has increased. It's still not there, and we are also, you know, working a lot on this topic because it's close to our equipment, and we know that there is a concern. But I think there is still work to be done to create an awareness. I think we are more used to, since many years, since sort of the beginning of our computers, that, you know, you would have firewalls and so on, but the OT aspects, that's other systems, other areas of your infrastructure which you need to protect. So I think we still have a way to go to create the awareness in many industries about this risk, because, I mean, like you mentioned, we've seen many attacks in the recent couple of years, and some, you know, go under the radar, right, are not even noticeable, but can still cause a lot of issues. So it's definitely an area which we need to continue to focus on, and this is definitely a key part of our focus, to make sure that we protect the assets of our customers from these OT attacks.
Yeah. Mustafa, thanks for that, Nadia. Mustafa, your company, Invenica, is working on a project with several clients to build a globalized trading market, and you're also working on smaller projects involving things like migrating to the cloud, trading as a service, blockchain, KYC, AML controls, and the complete integration of the end-to-end trade process. So can you tell us about those and the benefits they're bringing to your clients?
Yes, Michael, indeed. We are currently leading an initiative to build an independent and global trading platform that serves as an aggregator to existing digital trading products out there in the market, alongside some of our own IP and products that we are assembling together in order to automate the end-to-end trading process. We are currently talking to 14 different partners who offer solutions that we identified as fit for our participants and clients. In fact, we just finalized the commercial agreements with one of the partners that will be supplying the Line DLT or blockchain technology for this particular project. We are also aiming to engage and onboard over 250 trading business into the platform in the next 3 years. Mainly in groups for energy trading and metal trading, and hopefully soon as well to extend into agriculture and other assets. We are having conversations about onboarding of our funding members and participants that are backing us up currently. Later on, onboarding more participants as the platform grows. And we are relying as well on them to provide us with support and insight into the industry and the challenges that they have. In parallel to this, to our activity in the market, we will soon release a white paper that illustrates all of these challenges that we're learning from the traders. And we will be solving these challenges, including things that we are already aware of, like access to wider marketplaces to increase trade volume for each one of them, the full automation of trade processes, and the implementation of intelligent trading. For instance, network of networks connecting traders in different locations with each other, but also with financial institutions, logistic ledgers, insurers, etc. And to solve real problems that they suffer from in terms of problems relevant to trade finance, for example, settlement, BPU, and invoice finance, KYC and AML compliancy are some of these challenges. We are also creating a very flexible and complete cybersecurity and data privacy framework that guarantees autonomy and anonymity to our participants within this ecosystem, whilst integrating easily and or offering the OT tools to help trading businesses to transform internally in conjunction of being members in this ecosystem, such as ERPs or DMS tools. So yeah, we are currently finalizing our plan. Our technical teams are working on the first prototypes, and we hope soon to go out there into the market and make a big bang about it.
Very interesting. And which countries are these projects taking place in? Can you give us a flavour of the internationalization of this, or are they all in London and one or two other European cities?
You're absolutely bang on. We are starting with the UK and Europe mainly. Our current prospects are mainly companies in the UK, in Switzerland, Norway, and Holland. We are hoping to start leveraging our founding members' ecosystems first and hit their agenda first before we start scaling into other markets. But it is going to come, because that's the end goal for us, is to link all of the markets together in one platform.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Barry, I want to go back to you, because you talked about the blockchain project, and you mentioned that you're the big established trading companies in your sector use phone and email. You also said that one of your other projects is an online trading portal, which I imagine is kind of traditional technology as opposed to blockchain technology. So what are you doing there? Because I would have thought that all metal traders these days would be trading online rather than phone or email. So what's new about this trading portal that you're building?
Yeah, Mike, it's interesting. You would have thought in this day and age that any trade that we would do should be electronic. But actually, the metals business is probably one of the oldest fashioned businesses left. In fact, if you look at metals futures traded on the London Metal Exchange, the LME, this is still done today by open outcry. In fact, it's the only open outcry market left in the world. So even today, you know, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, people are shouting down the phones trying to buy and sell futures on the metals market. So it's quite surprising. So as a result, the rest of the metals market is also pretty old-fashioned. So, you know, when we do a trade with a counterparty, it's all done on the phone and it's all done via emails. In fact, confirmations and payments are all done via email, with all the implications that brings with security issues. You know, the fact that people even exchange, you know, settlement instructions via email is quite surprising and if not shocking. So it would be fairly obvious, I suppose, that we would want to look at what we could do to create some sort of online presence, even if it's just between us and our own counterparties. So actually we started working with Invenica, with Mustafa, who's on this call now, who's had plenty of experience in building these sort of online trading platforms, to develop, you know, a prototype and production system for what I suppose we would say are simpler trades. Because if we take some of our basic trades that we do with our counterparties, and, you know, put all the pricing, the confirmations, the contracts, the settlement instructions, make it all electronic and online, you know, why wouldn't we want to do that? It would certainly simplify and automate part of our business. And to be quite honest, it would streamline, you know, the whole process for us, you know, quite dramatically.
How is this different from the blockchain project? Presumably this online trading portal uses fairly conventional technology, albeit innovative, whereas the blockchain one would take that a step further. Is that right?
Well, that's correct. I mean, the online trading, if you imagine, if you kind of, you know, if you look at, let's take eBay or Amazon, you trade between one-on-one between a buyer and a seller, which is much easier than the back office where the banks are funding the transaction for you, which is the blockchain part. So the blockchain part involves a lot more counterparties, where you've got banks, you've got insurance companies, you've got warehousing. I mean, it's much, much more complicated. So the trading side is really just between us and the counterparty.
Right. Okay. Good. That's clear. Those two projects, the online trading portal and the blockchain one, to take it further and involve the banks. Two really exciting ones. Let's move on to sustainability and ESG considerations, environmental, social, and governance considerations. And Nadia, I'd like you to start this one off. My question is, your company, Siemens Energy, is a big buyer of oil and gas, which it uses to generate electricity. You're also a big producer of renewable energy, mainly wind, I think. But now you're looking at hydrogen as an energy source. So could you tell us how you create hydrogen, how it's used to provide electrical power, the technology involved, and the benefits it's going to bring, not just for you, but your customers and the environment in terms of combating climate change? It's a big question and a long answer, I expect, but I think people will be fascinated to hear about this hydrogen power technology.
Yes, thank you. I would be happy to share, and I'm excited to share about it because it is really so interesting, and I believe it's really the future, and it's going to lead us to a decarbonized, carbon neutral society and world. And you know, like you mentioned, I mean, Siemens Energy is known for, you know, delivering equipment like gas turbines, steam turbines, compressors, which are used in both in power generation, sort of the power plants, and that can be, you know, large utilities, but also smaller power plants used to distribute energy into the grids or industries. but also the offshore oil and gas business, and Siemens Gamesa are driving the Siemens wind business, wind power business. And if you could please move to the next slide, I would just want to show us a picture also that shows what we believe is the future, and we believe that the future is very much a mix of course, an increased level of renewables with wind and solar and hydro, but we also believe that our gas turbines will play a role in this energy landscape to decarbonize. And here is where the hydrogen then comes in. We are actively making our technology, gas turbines, which usually would run on natural gas and fossil fuels, ready for green fuels. So we've already had very successful mixes of hydrogen with other fuel like natural gas and successfully operated our gas turbines. We have, of course, different models of gas turbines, and they're all in different level of maturity in this technology, but basically we're making them ready for a hydrogen-based economy, which is also making another important purpose, because I want to mention something called sector coupling, which sounds a little bit weird, but actually it's what we believe will be, the deep decarbonization of all sectors. So what we will see, we believe, is that using the green power and the excess green power of the wind and the sun, we could use the gas turbines to create e-hydrogen and other synthetic green fuels as part of this synthesis process, which could then be further used in other industries like mobility, heavy trucks, aviation, marine, petrochemical industry, agriculture, and multiple industries. So it can really lead to multiple levels of a positive chain of events, is what we believe, and
Right,
obviously,
okay.
the goal is the neutral carbon footprint.
But I have a question about the hydrogen. I did read about this beforehand, and just correct me if I'm wrong or confirm if I'm right. But the hydrogen, where does it come from? Do you use the surplus power from, say, wind turbines to electrolyze water, separate the oxygen, or separate the water to two parts, oxygen and hydrogen, and then you can store the hydrogen, and then you burn the hydrogen with the gas in the gas turbines, and that generates electricity? Is that one of the key sources of hydrogen? Is that
You're
how it works?
absolutely right. I can say, Michael, you have you have read and you have understood this correctly. So it's actually, yes, correct. The excess and renewable energy, you use actually a technology called electrolyzer to separate and get the hydrogen, and then that hydrogen can then be used in other hydrocarbon synthesis processes, to create other green fuels like synthetic green fuels, which then in turn, like you say, can be used in all industries pretty much. Another thing besides hydrogen, which is interesting, is also what we're doing on carbon capture. We're also looking into that area to develop solutions that actually capture the carbon that is emitted from power plants. So that's another area. But this is really exciting developments, and hopefully with storage solutions we can also more optimally use the energy, and that will create a very optimal energy system.
Yep, good. Thanks for explaining that. Barry, Concord's working on a project to reduce its carbon footprint. So could you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. Not necessarily our carbon footprint, but let me explain what we're doing. So as you mentioned, ESG and sustainability has become, and rightly so, an important initiative for many companies, and we are certainly taking it seriously. And we've always been keen to look at and develop some innovative ideas in and around this area. And what we've done is we want to look at the carbon footprint of the trades that we're doing. So let's explain that in a bit more detail. So clearly, you know, what we're trying to do is say, what is a carbon footprint of taking the metal out of the ground at the mine, plus the shipping of that metal cargo by sea, plus any subsequent transportation of that material to the end client. So in other words, before we buy or sell any physical metal, we'd like to be able to outline what the carbon footprint of that trade would be to the clients. And then they can decide if that's a trade they want to do or not. And our banks are also looking at potentially prioritizing funding, you know, for certain low carbon footprint trades. So in effect, what we're trying to launch is one of the first CO2 emissions tracking platforms for the commodity supply chain. So as I said, we could tell people exactly what the carbon footprint of any trade that they'd like to do ahead of time. And it's interesting because, you know, some trades have a much higher carbon footprint than others. And it might be because of the way the mine operates and the fuel they use to take the metal out of the ground. It could be the ship and the fuel the ship is used to transport it. And it's actually very interesting, very innovative, and we hope to launch that actually very soon. So that's the idea that we have.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. Mustafa, is Invenica involved in any ESG projects?
Yes, Michael, we are, although not necessarily within the trading industry. I do think I need to keep up with both Nadia and Barry in that regard. In fact, we are involved in multiple of projects that are complementary to what corporates like Siemens are doing to promote green energy. However, we are focusing more on small companies and consumers to be involved in a new green and energy efficient world through our work within the telco industry and recently within the real estate industry. One of our most promising projects is a collaboration with a unique business that manufactures smart building blocks, where we are aiming to embed and implement IoT technology into the PropTech sector. We are assessing, defining, and integrating a bunch of sensors and IoT devices into these smart building blocks that once assembled together, you can basically build a house or a property in less than 10 days. And that's for both residential and also commercial properties.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we used to call that prefab building or prefab houses, prefabricated houses. I imagine that's an old term. I imagine what you're doing today is far more sophisticated.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of Lego blocks, and that's the analogy I give to anybody who asks me about it. If you've been a fan of Legos, you can build your house in the same way today. Actually, part of what we're doing for this particular business is finding very promising devices such as energy efficient smart plugs or windows actually that can generate renewable energy, air quality device monitoring systems, amongst many other use cases that adapt to sustainability, green economy, well-being, in some cases safety, as well as we do embed smart locks too. Perhaps the air quality monitoring one, Michael, is the closest one to my heart because it did concretize in the beginning of the confinement due to COVID-19, when it was a necessity to improve respiratory health within isolation. I actually got one for my house and managed to spend a lot of time working from home, running it on a Raspberry Pi and trying to integrate it with other smart devices that I have at home. Anyway, yeah, we are continuously keeping up to date with that. And actually, I would say probably my boss is more enthusiastic when it comes to R&D efforts, smart city initiatives, etc. I think if he was part of this conversation, he would probably hijack it.
Well, Mustafa, thank you for that, and thank you, Barry and Nadia. We've almost run out of time, so it's time for our concluding remarks, and the way I'd like to do this is the way I often end webinars is to ask you one final question, which is the same for each of you, and it allows you to just summarize the key points. And the question is, we've discussed this topic at length, so what are the most important points you said that you'd like listeners to remember? So Barry, you've got half a minute or so to summarize the key takeaways for the listeners.
Well, I'm going to be fairly high level on this, and I would say there's always room to be innovative and creative, so don't be afraid to try things out, because that's clearly what we're doing. I mean, our industry is very old-fashioned. It may take time to change, but it will change at some point. I would like to think that we can be part of the process to make that happen. If anything's proven a point over the last few months or the COVID-19 pandemic, anything that makes it quicker and easier to do business remotely will now be seen in a much more positive light. This, together with anything we can do to help the initiative, help the environment, with ESG initiatives, are all positive and great initiatives that we're all excited to be part of. So the world's open for all these ideas, and Concord and the way we look at it is open to try and make as much change as we can.
Great, good, thank you. And Nadia, your key point that you'd like people to remember?
Well, I guess it would be that the future is bright, and that's how I choose to see it. And I think if you think of all the negative things that surround us, and if you have a negative mindset, you can really that really negatively influences innovation. I think innovation, the ground base of innovation comes from a positive outlook of the world. And I think there has never been a greater speed in innovation, because there is a sense of urgency, much helped, I think, by the awareness of pandemic, how short life is, what we need to do, and all these elements I think can really trigger a fast forward to a much brighter future, and I'm happy to be part of that.
Great. And Mustafa, your summing up point?
Yes, I would like to invite all players within the trade industry to engage in conversations around collaboration and decentralized business models, certainly with independent tech companies like us. Like Nadia said, the future is promising, and we would like them to be involved in defining it, whether it's building global trading platforms or actually investigating use cases to make the world a better place, a greener place, and a healthier place.
Great, thank you. So Barry, there's always room to be innovative and creative, especially through things like remote working and environmentally friendly policies. For Nadia, the future is bright in terms of the energy industry, things like renewables and other innovative technology all coming together to make for an optimistic outlook for the future, not a pessimistic one. And for Mustafa, collaboration between businesses is the key, especially with technology companies like Invenica. So thank you very much, speakers, for taking part and summing up. It's been a fascinating discussion. This has been a live broadcast, but it's been recorded and will be available soon to view on demand on the Ditto website. And there's a hangout meeting afterwards, www.ditto.tv/MTD, I believe it is. I'm doing that from memory. I haven't got it written down.
Yeah, hi Mike, it's Mike here. If folk just fire up a new browser and stick ditto.tv/MTD. So a new browser, ditto.tv/MTD, and we'll see you over there.
Right, it's a new browser, that's the key. Okay, so thank you everybody for listening, and thank you speakers for taking part. Barry Gould, Nadia Hackinson, and Mustafa Nasser. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.